January 26, 1945, outside the French village of Holtzwihr. Snow covers the frozen ground, temperature just above zero. First Lieutenant Audie Murphy, 19 years old and 5 feet 5 inches tall, looks through his binoculars at the tree line 200 yards away. 6 German Panzer tanks are rolling toward his position, followed by approximately 250 infantry soldiers. His company has 40 men, most of them already positioned in the woods behind him. The odds are impossible. Murphy knows it. His men know it. The Germans probably know it too, but they're coming anyway. Murphy had been fighting since North Africa in 1942. Sicily, Anzio, southern France. He'd seen more combat at 19 than most soldiers see in their entire lives. He'd already earned 2 Silver Stars, 3 Purple Hearts, and a Distinguished Service Cross. His superiors kept trying to promote him to safer positions away from the front lines. Murphy kept refusing. He wanted to stay with his men, the soldiers he'd trained and fought beside for 3 years. On this frozen morning in Alsace, that decision would either save his company or end his life. The German attack began with artillery. Shells exploded around the American positions, throwing up fountains of frozen earth and snow. Murphy radioed for artillery support from the rear, then ordered his men to fall back into the woods where they'd have better cover. The plan was simple: let the Germans advance into the open field, then hit them with everything they had. But plans change fast in combat. Hook, one of Murphy's tank destroyers, an M10 Wolverine with a .50 caliber machine gun mounted on top, took a direct hit from German artillery. The vehicle erupted in flames, thick black smoke pouring from the engine compartment. The crew bailed out and ran for the trees, leaving the burning hulk sitting in the middle of the field. Murphy watched the German tanks continue their advance, infantry moving up behind them in coordinated lines. They were 100 yards away now, moving fast, confident they'd overrun the outnumbered Americans. Murphy made a decision that defied every tactical manual ever written. He ran toward the burning tank destroyer. His men yelled at him to come back, but Murphy kept running. He climbed onto the back deck of the M10, flames licking at the sides, smoke choking the air around him. The .50 caliber machine gun was still intact on its mount, ammunition belt still loaded. Murphy grabbed the gun, swung it toward the advancing Germans, and opened fire. The first burst caught a squad of German infantry moving across the open field. They went down. Murphy adjusted his aim, fired again. Another group scattered. The Germans couldn't believe what they were seeing. One American soldier, standing on top of a burning vehicle, firing at an entire battalion. The Panzer tanks turned their turrets toward Murphy. Machine gun fire raked the area around the M10. Bullets pinged off the armored hull, ricocheted past Murphy's head, tore through his uniform. He kept firing. The company commander radioed Murphy, ordering him to get down and retreat. Murphy ignored him. He knew if he left that machine gun, the Germans would roll right through his company's position and eliminate everyone. So he stayed. The tank destroyer under his feet was fully engulfed in flames now. Ammunition inside was starting to cook off from the heat, small explosions popping underneath the deck. Murphy could feel the metal getting hot through his boots. The smoke was so thick he could barely breathe, tears streaming from his eyes. But he could still see targets, and he kept pulling the trigger. Hook! Murphy didn't just fire randomly. He picked targets with precision, officers first, then machine gun crews, then soldiers trying to flank his position. When German infantry tried to work around to his left, he swung the .50 cal and cut them down. When they tried the right side, he caught them in the open. The Germans couldn't advance without getting shredded by Murphy's fire, but they couldn't retreat either. Their commanders were pushing them forward. It turned into a nightmare for the German infantry. The Panzer tanks moved closer, trying to get a clean shot at Murphy. One tank fired its main gun. The shell missed by yards, exploding behind the M10. Another tank tried to get a better angle. Murphy turned his machine gun on the infantry supporting that tank, forcing the soldiers to take cover and leaving the Panzer exposed. He radioed the coordinates to American artillery in the rear. Seconds later, shells rained down on the German position. One Panzer took a direct hit and stopped moving. The others backed off. For an hour, Audie Murphy fought alone on that burning tank destroyer. The German infantry made multiple attempts to rush his position. Each time, Murphy's machine gun fire drove them back. His ammunition ran low. He called back to his company, and soldiers ran forward under fire to bring him fresh ammo belts. They handed up the ammunition, then ran back to cover while Murphy reloaded and kept shooting. A German artillery shell exploded close enough to spray Murphy with shrapnel and frozen dirt. He felt something hit his right leg. Burning pain shot through his thigh. He looked down, saw blood soaking through his pants. The wound wasn't immediately life-threatening, but it hurt like hell and made it harder to stand. Murphy adjusted his stance, leaned against the gun mount for support, and kept firing. The Germans brought up more reinforcements. Murphy could see fresh infantry moving up from the tree line, probably another company. Now, he was facing 300-plus enemy soldiers. His machine gun barrel was glowing red from sustained fire, heat waves rising off the metal. The tank destroyer beneath him was an inferno. Flames were reaching the ammunition storage, and Murphy knew any second the whole thing could explode and vaporize him. He stayed on that gun. Hook! His company watched from the woods, amazed and terrified. Staff Sergeant Norman confirmed afterward. He was hit multiple times, bleeding, standing on a vehicle that was about to blow up, and he just kept shooting. We couldn't believe it. Several soldiers tried to run out and pull Murphy back. He waved them off. If multiple people were out in the open, they'd all get shot. Better one man take the risk than lose several. Around the 50-minute mark, Murphy called an artillery fire directly on his own position. The Germans were getting too close, within 30 yards of the burning M10. Murphy gave the coordinates, told the artillery to drop shells right on top of me, then hung up the radio and kept firing. American shells began exploding all around the tank destroyer. Murphy crouched low behind the gun mount, let the barrage tear through the advancing Germans, then stood back up and resumed shooting when the artillery lifted. The German attack finally broke. After an hour of sustained resistance from one American soldier, the German commanders realized they weren't breaking through this position. They'd lost dozens of men, one tank destroyed, others damaged, and they still couldn't eliminate the lone soldier on the burning vehicle. The Panzers began backing up. The infantry retreated to the tree line, dragging their wounded with them. Murphy kept his gun trained on them until they disappeared into the forest. Only then did Murphy climb down from the M10. His leg barely supported his weight. The shrapnel wound was worse than he'd thought, blood pooling in his boot. His uniform was scorched, his hands burned from the hot gun metal, his face blackened with smoke. He limped back toward his company's position. Soldiers ran out to help him, supporting him on both sides as they got him to cover. The M10 tank destroyer exploded 5 minutes later, ammunition finally igniting in a massive fireball. If Murphy had stayed another few minutes, he wouldn't have made it. Medics bandaged Murphy's leg and wanted to evacuate him immediately. Murphy refused. He stayed with his company for the rest of the day, organizing their defense in case the Germans counterattacked. Only that evening did he finally agree to get medical treatment. By then, his company commander had already written up the Medal of Honor citation. The official count. Audie Murphy held off 6 Panzer tanks and approximately 250 German infantry for 1 hour while standing on a burning vehicle. He personally eliminated or wounded around 50 enemy soldiers, caused the destruction of multiple German positions through his artillery calls, and single-handedly prevented a German breakthrough that would have collapsed the entire American line in that sector. All while wounded under sustained enemy fire, standing on a vehicle that was actively on fire and about to explode. President Harry Truman presented Murphy with the Medal of Honor on June 2, 1945. Murphy also received every other valor decoration the U.S. military could award, 33 medals in total, making him the most decorated American combat soldier of World War II. The French awarded him their highest military honors. Belgium gave him their Croix de Guerre. Even the formerly neutral countries acknowledged his courage. Murphy was only 19 years old during the Holtzwihr action. He'd grown up dirt poor in rural Texas, one of 12 children, dropped out of school in 5th grade to pick cotton and help feed his family. When he tried to enlist after Pearl Harbor, the Marines rejected him for being too short and underweight. The Army almost turned him away too. The recruiters couldn't have imagined that this skinny teenager would become the most effective combat soldier America produced. After the war, Murphy moved to Hollywood and became an actor, starring in over 40 films. He used his fame to advocate for veterans suffering from what we now call PTSD. He spoke openly about his own nightmares and struggles adjusting to civilian life. He pushed for better mental health treatment for veterans decades before it became a mainstream issue. Murphy died in a plane crash in 1971 at age 45. He's buried at Arlington National Cemetery, and his grave remains one of the most visited sites there. Why does this story matter? Because Audie Murphy did what no tactical manual says is possible. One soldier, alone, against a combined arms assault of tanks and infantry, while standing on a vehicle that was literally on fire. He won, not through luck, through skill, courage, and an absolute refusal to let his men down. Every soldier in his company went home because Murphy decided one man's life was worth risking to save 40. The burning tank at Holtzwihr became a symbol. When the odds are impossible and survival seems unlikely, one person with enough determination can still change the outcome. Murphy proved that heroism isn't about being fearless. He was terrified that entire hour. It's about doing what needs to be done even when you're scared, even when you're hurt, even when logic says you should run.